What's the matter? Time-manipulating, universe-shattering villains aren't enough for you? Fine then, be greedy. Of course there's plenty more villains to choose from once Kang gets his eventual comeuppance. Let's talk about the strongest villain that the MCU Multiverse Saga will introduce. What's worse than conquering worlds? Destroying them, of course. Now granted, Kang has probably done that once or twice, but at least he didn't make it his reason for being. Galactus may not be the strongest being in existence, but most casual Marvel fans probably think he is, with a stomach so large that he earned the nickname the Devourer of Worlds. Don't get me wrong when I say Galactus can defeat just about anyone. He's so hungry he eats entire planets just to satisfy this hunger. Dude reminds me of my girlfriend after every time I order food and she originally told me she didn't want anything. Also similar to her, Galactus is stacked with cosmic abilities that supersede even that of the Celestials. But how could the Multiverse Saga possibly introduce the Devourer of Worlds? Galactus in the comics was originally a man from another world that predated the creation of the main Earth 616 universe. That creation destroyed his own universe, leaving him the only survivor and imbuing him with the cosmic energy that makes him so darn hungry. Based on the upcoming Avengers titles, Secret Wars could be the secret origin of Galactus in the MCU. I believe the multiverse is going to get messy real fast. Kang will conquer it, and there will be just too many universes to keep track of. So an event like Secret Wars will lead to the destruction of most, if not all, of the other universes within the multiverse. One of these universes could be the home to a man named Galen of the planet Ta. Yeah, you already know. That was Galactus' name before he got all famous. Ejected from his universe and placed into the only surviving universe from Secret Wars, Galen will absorb a bunch of cosmic energy along the way, and then quite literally become the biggest nuisance to the remaining heroes in the one universe to survive the events of the Multiverse Saga. I think Doctor Doom will not only be a major villain going forward after the Multiverse Saga, but I think he's going to barge his way in halfway through it. It's highly speculated that Avengers Secret Wars will closely follow the 2015 comic storyline of the same name. If this is the case, then the leader of Latveria, and possibly the most notorious Marvel villain of all time, would be that story's villain. Victor Von Doom does not have the cosmic power of Galactus, but much like Kang, this mere human is resourceful, and even more so than the Master of Time, wouldn't you say? Sometimes being quick on your feet is all you need. He's found ways to acquire different powers, such as sorcery and technology unlike anything ever seen. But nothing tops the power he acquired in Secret Wars. In the comics, he gained a fraction of power from the beings known as the Beyonders. This gave him the power to create his own world during the destruction of the multiverse. Not only that, but he populated it with heroes and villains from his own universe, as well as the ones from the Ultimate Universe. Then for good measure, he wiped all their memories and convinced them to worship him as a god. Obviously, if all this were to take place, I'd cry at the sheer beauty.
Yes.
As should you. And the only path that leads to waterworks from this guy starts in the MCU's Fantastic Four film. Doctor Doom is a longtime rival of Reed Richards, and by extension the Fantastic Four. Now, just about every live-action Fantastic Four movie has had Victor Von Doom as their main villain. Even the one with Galactus in it, Doom hogged the spotlight. And you know what all those movies did? Yes, they ruined the best Marvel villain ever put to page. But that's okay, the MCU's got this, right? But what I don't want to see is him as the main villain. Instead, the Fantastic Four movie could introduce Reed and Victor working together and begin to show their split as the Fantastic Four take on Mole Man or something. And spoiler alert, Mole Man will not be on this list. Second spoiler alert, but I foresee you hitting the subscribe button. Why? To catch all the latest CBR content. On to the rest. We need to dive into the world of symbiotes, especially in the MCU. All we've gotten so far is a tiny black smudge on the bar countertop, and honestly it came from a goofy character in another studio's franchise universe that also includes a vampire who uses way too much conditioner.
Why?
We've seen the likes of Venom and Carnage in the Sonyverse, but a post-credit scene only began to scratch the surface of what they are capable of, and that's thanks to their symbiote god, better known as Knull. Knull is the creator and deity to every symbiote on every planet in every stinking universe. Not only that, but he basically shares a brain with all of them. He has unlimited cosmic knowledge and power, and honestly created some of the most terrifying looking beings in the universe. He also doesn't just make creatures that latch onto you and eat your organs, but he makes weapons too. Knull is the creator of the Necrosword used by Gore to strike down gods. Overall, this villain's influence and power far exceeds Kang's. So where would Knull make his grand entrance? After all, he has to already exist since Venom is now MCU canon. First off, I think we get the MCU version of Venom in Secret Wars as well. This would be a nod to the original Secret Wars from the 80s that first features Spider-Man in his all-black symbiote suit. Similar to Thanos' entrance after the first Avengers, a post-credit scene featuring the Venom suit could also see a shadowy figure rise from his throne, turn to the crowd and grin just enough to let you know there's at least 3 more phases of MCU coming. Then again, the Sony universe might just implode and we can forget that No Way Home post-credits ever happened, making this entire theory null and void. Look, just cut me some slack on this one. I have a lot of PTSD predicting stuff about Mephisto in the MCU. Did you know it was Agatha all along? Who could have possibly guessed? God forbid the freaking rabbit be revealed to be Mephisto. Anyway, back on track. The literal devil of the Marvel Universe is one powerful villain. He's been there for many Marvel stories, including Thanos' first Infinity Quest. But his ability to possess the souls of people is what makes him so dangerous. Even more so than a conqueror of time. Mephisto is even responsible for the creation of Ghost Rider after convincing many people to sell their souls to the devil. He controls the spirit of vengeance and can hop dimensions with ease. There is no form of person, or Loki, that can be categorized as more mischievous than Mephisto. So at risk of my health and sanity, let's speculate where he could appear. Blade is someone who deals with the dark underbelly of the Marvel Universe from time to time. Right around the corner from vampires exist demons like Chthon and Mephisto. He's another villain like Knull, who will probably be revealed to have been there the whole time. So literally it could be anywhere. An Eternal sequel could see someone like Mephisto challenge the Celestials. She-Hulk may be excited about the arrival of the X-Men, but I can't wait to see what kind of villains they bring with them. Spoiler alert, some of them could mean more trouble than any heroes will have faced up until that point. One of which is one that Fox has royally screwed up not once, but twice. And that is of course the Dark Phoenix. Jean Grey is one of the most powerful mutants already, but when she came into contact with the all-powerful Phoenix Force, it was a match made in the furthest thing from heaven, much more Mephisto's speed. The Phoenix Force is a neutral cosmic entity that gives the user the power to nearly alter reality at will. Needless to say, it's a lot to handle, and under the weight of that pressure, Jean Grey slightly loses her mind and becomes the Dark Phoenix, a being of such immeasurable power that every mutant in the universe stands no chance against her. Should the Dark Phoenix come to the MCU, she could disintegrate every single variant of Nathaniel Richards without even batting an eye. Now, the big question. How do you think mutants enter the MCU? One theory, and don't worry, we will get to others, says that the fallout of Secret Wars could lead to the development of the Mutant X gene in the MCU. Either a slight change in the restoration of the Earth-616 timeline, or probably the copious amounts of radiation that are almost definitely involved in an event called an incursion. However, they also could come about through the Celestials. In the comics, the Mutant X gene originated 1 million years ago in the past, at the same time as the creation of the Eternals and the Deviants. It was the Celestials' experiments that created mutation. In an Eternal sequel, more of their experiments could see them creating this gene in the present day. Regardless, if the first 3 phases were the Infinity Saga, and the next 3 are the Multiverse Saga, then the 3 after that very well could be the Mutant Saga, with the Dark Phoenix just waiting to emerge. The Dark Phoenix could be the next Thanos and Kang of the theorized Mutant Saga, or it could be another in the realm of mutant kind, one who we've already seen. Some say the most powerful mutant is none other than the first, En-Sabah-Nur, better known as the Marvel supervillain Apocalypse. Apocalypse was believed to be a god in his time in ancient Egypt, and that worship continued far into the future. It makes sense why people would see him as such, given the power En-Sabah-Nur displays. Besides the standard stuff that lets him win just about any arm wrestling match, Apocalypse has telekinetic abilities on par with Professor X, and can alter matter just by glossing over his eyes. The kicker with Apocalypse is his ability to acquire new powers. So it doesn't matter how strong Kang is, Apocalypse can always get stronger. But where would the first mutant come into play? This obviously could only occur if mutation had secretly existed the whole time, or if Secret Wars alters the timeline to one that always had mutation, given that Apocalypse originates in ancient Egypt. Honestly, I'm surprised Apocalypse hasn't already at least been teased, especially in the Moon Knight series. Not a single Easter egg or background statue pointing at the possible existence of the ancient ruler of Egypt. However, we could get one in a future Moon Knight project following Phase 6. Needless to say, the Multiverse Saga will be exploring several other dimensions. We've already seen a couple. The village of Ta Lo in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and the Quantum Realm exist separately from the main multiverse. Even if the other universes caused by timeline changes go by the end of Quantumania, these alternate dimensions will possibly live on. And if they do, we could be introduced to a powerful leader of a very famous one. Annihilus is the insectoid leader of the Negative Zone. Annihilus not only exceeds every Kang variant in strength, but some of the weapons he possesses can even rival the Master of Time. The Control Rod, for example, is capable of any feat so long as Annihilus wields it within the Negative Zone. He also controls a vast bug-like army that he has used to wage some of the most casualty-heavy wars in Marvel Comics history. Annihilus could easily be the next threat coming for the Avengers. But where would he be introduced? Well, you may recognize his home. The Negative Zone is not only famous for housing Annihilus, but it's also responsible for giving Marvel's first family their powers. The MCU Fantastic Four film will most likely give us our first look at this new pocket dimension, if not even a hint at Annihilus himself. He could then appear on a return trip from the Fantastic Four in the phases following the Multiverse Saga, threatening to once again wage war on the universe. One of, if not the most powerful beings in the universe is known as the Beyonder. He belongs to a race of ultra-dimensional, all-knowing, and all-powerful beings who can manipulate reality at will. Unfortunately, he's not really a feed the hungry or heal the sick kind of guy. Instead, the Beyonder was the villain of the original story titled Secret Wars back in the 1980s. He used his abilities to create a new world called Battle World, and transported most of Marvel's greatest heroes and villains to the new planet to do battle. One of these villains was even Kang the Conqueror, showing the Beyonder's superiority over the greatest evil Marvel had to offer. The Beyonder lives on a level so far detached from human life that he sees the beings of the universe as his playthings. Just a fraction of his power turned Doctor Doom into a god, so the full might of the Beyonder may not only be the next threat to the MCU, but it could feasibly mean its end. The Beyonder is likely to make an appearance in Secret Wars. Regardless which version is being adapted, the Beyonder or his power plays a large part in both. It's nearly impossible to defeat him, which means he could be sticking around long after the Multiverse Saga. Heck, we all think Avengers Secret Wars is the finale of the Multiverse Saga, but for all we know, this movie could just be setting up the Beyonder as the big bad for literally years to come. It would take a whole lot of creativity to even come up with a weakness that this ultimate villain has. No one has found one yet. Who would have thought back in 2008 that armored business rivals would eventually lead to the likes of Mad Titans and time-traveling conquerors? And trust me, with only the writer's imagination putting a stop to it, there's so much power to be brought to the screen. Which Marvel villain do you think will be the next big threat to the Marvel Cinematic Universe?